That's not good.
Welcome to another episode of The Play Callers Sports Talk Radio Show. I am
Yo,
one
yo.
half. Oh yeah, I forgot you got to get that in, man. I'm one half of the dynamic duo, Stephen Box, joined as always by my co-host, the one and the only.
Cool McCain. Time for another week. Hope y'all ready.
So, I know some of y'all might be thinking to yourself, man, we didn't have as much live sports this week as we normally do. What are you guys going to possibly talk about? Well, good news. We've had like months of practice without live sports. So, this is a piece of cake for us, man. We're going to have a great show. So we got, who's that? Big Rob joining us? Saying what's up? Big Rob, what's up, man? Glad to see you on tonight. So
what's going on, Rob? Glad to have you, man.
So just a quick reminder for everybody, if you are tuning in for the very first time, make sure you hit that subscribe button down there in the bottom right-hand corner. That way you always get notifications and you never, ever miss an episode. You can also catch us on your favorite podcast. You see those below. The links are in the description. So cool, man. What's good with you, man? What is it that you want to talk about this week? Because there's so many stories out there right now. I mean, it's like the sports world is on fire right now.
It is. So for me, there's only one place to start. So I would like to talk about the comment that was made by Brian Urlacher. So I'm going to read it for those of you who haven't had an opportunity to read the comment in its entirety or heard about it, or if you have, just refresh your mind real quick. So essentially, his comment was, and this is a quote from his Instagram, so this is not, second source, and it's directly from his Instagram. Brett Favre played the Monday Night Football game the day his dad died, threw 4 touchdowns in the first half, and was a legend for playing in the face of adversity. NBA players boycott the playoffs because a dude reaching for a knife, wanted on a felony sexual assault warrant, was shot by police. So, I'm just going to talk for a few seconds and I'll let you talk and then I'll finish after that. So my biggest issue is we're comparing Brett Favre's father passing away from natural causes to an ongoing issue with a certain group of people. I happen to be part of that group, but even were I not, it's an ongoing issue everybody's been made aware of. And your response is essentially, suck it up, you should have played. What was the point of you not playing? His statement, as well as his liking a different Instagram post in support of the young man who was walking around with a rifle shooting people, who was later apprehended after he committed crimes, is a concern for me. And I'll get to why in a few minutes, but I want to let you go ahead and speak on it for a few moments.
Yeah, man. So, my thoughts are similar to yours. I think it's ridiculous. The problem is I've seen a lot of people make these kind of comments over the years, right? Where they take two things that really have absolutely nothing to do with each other, and they try to draw some kind of comparison to it. And me, I'm the king of analogies, so it really irritates me when people use really bad analogies. But in this particular instance, what I'm seeing is you're basically trying to say that the players didn't play because they were heartbroken, and that this isn't even somebody close to you. Brett Favre lost his dad and he played. Well, that's not why they didn't play. They didn't play because here they are. They're trying to make a difference. They're doing the jerseys. They're putting Black Lives Matter on the court. They're doing all these things. They're trying to make a difference. They're trying to educate people. And while they're out there on the court playing, trying to make a difference, this is still happening. That's why they didn't play, because the frustration of that, they don't even feel like they're being heard. Imagine having all that star power, all that ability to have your voice heard, and still feel like people aren't hearing you. That's extremely frustrating for people. So I feel like they made the decision they did in that frustration of we have to try something else because what we're doing now, it still apparently is not getting the job done. And Brian Urlacher completely missed that point. Um, Furthermore, as Rob even pointed out too, is several things in that statement aren't even true. He wasn't actually reaching for the knife when he was shot. And it's now come out that this rumor about him having a warrant for sexual assault isn't even true. So, two falsehoods that you're relying on to make your entire argument, in addition to a comparison that doesn't even make any sense. So, to me, Brian Urlacher, you going somewhere, bro.
So yeah, a couple of other things that I want to point out. So essentially, even if he was, for the sake of what I want to say, even if he was wanted for sexual assault, he was reaching for a knife. He had children in the back seat that had to witness their father being shot 7 times, losing their innocence as children, by people who they've been told are there to protect them. Even if he was guilty of those things, and I even a warrant out, even if he was, do they deserve that?
Nope.
And Brian Urlacher, if you were subdued in a hard way, because you wouldn't be shot 7 times by the police. That doesn't happen because you were reaching for a knife. You would be tased worse off. But let's say, for the sake of argument, you have kids. You're in the car with your kids. You get pulled out of the car because of mistaken identity, whatever. You get shot 7 times in front of your kids. You get shot 1 time in front of your kids. You get beat down in front of your kids. How is that going to affect them? What part of that is right?
Nope.
Now, you add on to the fact that these things weren't even true. They were rumors, and you took rumors and did what the problem is in America. You take a rumor and try to make it a fact. But you don't have a problem with someone taking an AR pistol, an AR gun, a machine gun type gun, a rifle, and going around town with it, and the police seeing them and doing nothing about it. You don't have a problem with that person shooting people, killing people, hurting people, but you have a problem with this particular situation.
Yep.
So to bring it back to the basketball. So we have a topic about that later, but just going to kind of preview that quickly. Quite simply, the reason for them walking out, besides frustrations, number one, the players from Milwaukee, which didn't come out until today, were actually on the phone with the governor of Wisconsin. What they got accomplished was Milwaukee's going to have, for the state of Wisconsin, they're going to have an emergency section in about the next week to talk about some of the things that these players were demanding, such as reform for the police department, such as when these acts are perpetrated by a policeman, that instead of them being protected by being a policeman, they're treated just like me or you or anyone else that decides they want to go and shoot somebody in the back.
Yep.
So those are the things that need to happen for this to change. The reason that the players, and we'll get into this more later, but the main reason that the players got out the court, besides, of course, the frustration, as my co-host did state, they want real change. That can't happen for them. They need the people that have power to make decisions to get on their side. I'll give you a perfect example that resonates with me as an Eagles fan. The year we won the Super Bowl, Meek Mill was in jail. Robert Kraft, and I forgot who else, another owner, went to see him. They decided that he shouldn't be in jail. 2 months later, he was out. And he was in jail for a long time before they came. But people that have power can can make things happen. So these owners of these teams, what the players are wanting is, hey man, use your political stroke. And I'm not saying we'll make anybody do this or that, but use your political stroke to get some of these things happening for us on a higher level. Because you think about it, if you're not a LeBron James, a Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving, people that are known, you're just a everyday player. Even a George Hill. No one knows George Hill like out of uniform. You're not going to say, oh, that's George Hill. Yep. So when those guys leave that area, when their kids, their family members their friends, you're just another black person. So the problem that they're having on one hand is, yeah, we want this for our communities, but on the other hand, a lot of us could be in the same situation. And all the policeman has to do is yell out, oh, he's got a gun, oh, he's reaching for this, he's reaching for that.
Yep.
And they can use it as justification. So Brian Urlacher, to me, you get an F. I clearly see the type of person or mind state that you have. So you have a family. So clearly you're going to raise your family, whatever children you have, with the same mind state. That's the problem. That in itself lies the whole problem with everything. If you see me, I shouldn't be treated any differently than my co-host. You shouldn't grab your purse if I walk down the right hand side of the road and you're on the right hand. You shouldn't grab your purse or your bag because I probably got more money than you. But that doesn't happen. That's the problem, the mentality. You can't change mentality unless people want it to change. So what you can do is when you don't want to abide by the rules, when you want to say because of who the race of this person, and I've been able to get away with this in the past, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. In order to make that change, start treating them just like you do anybody else. Shannon Sharpe made a great statement when he said a couple of days ago on Undisputed, I was able to watch a little bit of the show that morning. He said, if Pookie shoots Ray Ray, if Pookie kills Ray Ray or shoots Ray Ray, as soon as they find Pookie, Pookie is getting grabbed and put in jail. They'll build the case while he's in jail. But if Cop A shoots Ray Ray, Cop A gets to continue to do his job. If there's enough fuss made about it, he's put on administrative leave while they try to find a way to get him out of it. Again, therein lies the problem. It's a mentality. So you have to break the mentality by saying, hey, these things happen. We're going to treat you like you're anybody else that's attacking someone with a weapon. That's how you begin to make people think twice about doing things that they've never, ever had to think twice or been concerned with in the past.
Yep. You know, man, it's really one thing that I don't think people stop to think about. You know, you mentioned the Brian Urlacher and how, you know, if he has kids, he's going to teach this mentality to his kids. And this is why so many non-white people want to see, you know, more examples on television and in movies and different places of positive non-white, you know, characters, because you have to assume these cops are either just outright racist, that some of these people they look at a black person and they're like, okay, I'm gonna do something just because he's black. Or if they're not just outright racist, maybe they have more of a fear of black people than they do if it's a white person. And why would they have that fear? Because of the stereotypes and the beliefs that get perpetuated all around us culturally in movies, TV shows, and in different places. We have to look at changing the entire system in order to get rid of those stereotypes and those beliefs, because there's no doubt that leads to some of these situations. I mean, obviously, you know, some of these cops are just racists who saw an opportunity to get a badge and be able to abuse it. But I don't necessarily think that's every single situation with a cop. But even if it's just that you're scared, I mean, and you know, I've said this before, if you're scared, you don't need to have a badge and a gun. If you were too scared to be able to do your job, then you need another job.
And that's, I mean, I can't say it better.
Yeah.
I can't really say it better. Now, Rob did also state, Big Rob, that Herschel Walker is garbage. He's referring to Herschel Walker and some statements that he made at the Republic National Convention. Just to quickly respond to that, 100% agree with you, Rob. Herschel Walker, you should be ashamed to allow yourself to be used in that manner. If that's not what you choose to do, bro, that's on you. But you've lost a lot of respect from a lot of people, but you've allowed yourself to become part of and be played, because that's what happened.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch too much on the subject, but I will say this, Herschel. I've heard enough. I've heard this particular phrase enough times to know that you've probably heard it a couple times in your life and that you haven't caught on. Somebody's probably said something to you to the extent of, "Yeah, but you're one of the good black people." And Herschel, here's a newsflash for you: if they told you that you're one of the good black people, even though they hanging around you, they're still racist. Just so you know, bro.
Absolutely. Now, something else that I wanted to quickly touch on, and I'll let you give your comments after mine. It'll be pretty quick. Montrezl Harrell made an inappropriate statement to Luka Doncic. So a lot of people were calling for him to be suspended and trying to use this as something to get away from the problems that are happening in the black community. So to Montrezl Harrell, I say, you have to make sure that you don't do this. Like I said to Deshaun Jackson, you guys have to understand that whenever you do anything, that the people that don't want us to have equal treatment, that don't want the issues to be highlighted, this gives them an opportunity to say, oh, look what he said. They want to be treated equal, but again, they want to be treated equal. But that's what the kind of things are said. They want to be treated equal, but it's got to be good and bad. Okay, well, give us the good first, and then we'll be more than happy to take the bad. Yeah. Well, let's work on getting us the good where we're comfortable doing our regular living, and then say, hey, treating you equal, being treated fair, that's the good and the bad. That's fine. There is bad sides. What he said should not have been said. It has been said before in the NBA, let's be honest, but in this current situation, you should not have said it. But at the end of the day, however that was determined to be handled by the NBA, I would have been fine with it. If they would have said he's got to sit out of the game, I'd have been fine with it. They didn't say he did. I'm fine with that as well. Understand that don't use these things to try to take away from what really matters. And people, don't say things that they're going to be able to take and misconstrue to try to use to get away from what we're trying to do.
So I'm just going to say this. Anybody out there, unless you are a Mavericks fan or you are a huge Luka fan, you weren't even offended by this. Just stop. Stop pretending like you were offended. I've been called much worse. The first part of that statement was way more offensive than the second part. So just stop with the fake outrage, man. It's ridiculous. Stop being ridiculous.
But the first part doesn't matter because it didn't have anything that could be construed as a racial connotation. That's what's sad.
Yeah. And me and you, we both played sports most of our life. We've both been called much worse.
Oh yeah.
So it's Luka wasn't even offended by it. So to me, it's really a non-issue. I understand if you're a Mavs fan, Luka's your favorite player, you might be a little bit upset by it, but unless you're a Mavs fan, you really have no reason to be upset. Stop looking for excuses to distract from stuff. But yeah, man. So we got some extra people tuning in. Just so you guys know, if you have anything you want to throw in the chat, we would love to interact with y'all. So make sure you throw your comments, your questions over there. We'll respond to them. As you can see, we are not afraid to tackle any big issues here. As long as we can even loosely tie it back to sports, we'll talk about it. That's our one rule for anything we talk about. We gotta at least be able to loosely tie it back to sports. But I do want to just throw this out real quick, just for anybody that's listening, just so that there's no misunderstanding. Me and my co-host, neither one feel like, we should get rid of police or anything like that. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that good cops should be able to be praised for doing their job, because bad cops should be held accountable for their actions. That's what we're saying. We're not out here trying to eliminate police forces or any of the other nonsense that you be seeing on memes on Facebook. That's not what this is about. This is about creating accountability and creating equality for everyone to be treated the exact same way. That's all this is about.
Absolutely. And we can actually tie that into sports as well. I did talk about Milwaukee a little while ago, but the Baltimore Ravens, they actually submitted something, to their state, basically saying, hey, these are the things that we feel like need to happen. And some of the things they detail were some of the things I discussed earlier. Someone policing the people who are sentencing, people of color, policing how people of color are handled, when they're arrested, when they're prosecuted, the entire process. Because the thing is, are there people of color who commit crimes who should go to jail? Absolutely. There's people of every color that do. Yeah. But there is a certain way and certain procedures that should be in place for everyone. And the procedures are in place. The problem is how they're being used differently for different people. For instance, let's say someone of color goes and they rob a store, at gunpoint. All right, they may get 10 years in jail. A non-person of color might go do the same crime and get 3 years in jail. So why is it different for a person of color than a non-person of color? If you're giving everybody 10 years, then all you can say is, hey, don't rob a store and you won't get 10 years in jail. But if you're getting 10 years and someone else is getting 3 years, and obviously these are fictional time frames, but that's not how things should be. It just needs to be more consistent. All anyone's asking for is consistency.
Yep. That's it.
That's it. Just consistency. The same for you, the same for me. That's all that people of color, Black people, are asking for. That's what Black Lives Matter is about. It's not about saying white lives don't matter, Asian lives don't matter, Hispanic lives don't matter, mixed lives don't matter. It's just saying we want to be treated just like everybody else. We want to walk outside and nobody grab their purse. We want to walk outside and not have to worry about, because of the color of our skin, we're at a higher rate of, being arrested, shot, killed by people that are supposed to protect us. And it's not everyone. There's great cops out there, definitely. I mean, I've had a situation like last year where I had an issue with my battery. And my daughter at soccer practice had an issue with my battery. I couldn't get in contact with anyone. Policeman came by like, hey, what's going on? I told him, he actually went to his police station, got one of the little jumper pads that they plug in and charge to give you a quick jump, brought it back, made sure I was good to go. So I'm not saying that every cop everywhere is bad, but I'm saying I was really scared when he pulled up because I know what's going on, Yeah. But it ended up not being that type of situation. But my point is, I want to be able to see the cops and say, oh, great, there's a cop. Hey, man, I need help. Just like anybody else does. And not be like, oh, gosh, is this going to get ugly for me? That's the difference. Yeah. Difference is how you feel about things just on a personal level of concern whenever you see a policeman.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that way, but you have to be because you never know.
Yeah, I mean, I did a speech about a month ago at my Toastmasters club, and it was kind of on the same subject, but I gave the example that I never realized when I was young, and when I was the only white person in the group, that everybody would joke around like, "Hey man, if we get pulled over, you do all the talking," and I kind of understood what they were saying, but I never really understood the full extent of it. Saying it was like a joke. But then, in looking at all the things that happened, as I got a little older, I started to understand. Yeah, they were saying it in a funny way, but it was legitimate concern of like, hey, look, we definitely letting the white dude do all the talking. Because that's I only hope we get it all getting out of here safely. So I just think a lot of people who, especially a lot of white people, who maybe haven't had the opportunity to be around a lot of Black people. They just don't know, man. They don't understand the things that they take for granted, like seeing a cop and being like, okay, cool, I can get some help. It's not something that the average Black person feels comfortable with. And they just don't know. But it's alright, we're here to educate y'all, though.
That's the thing, man. If you don't understand, find you someone that's Black that you can sit and have a conversation with. We're more than happy to explain it. Just explain how it is as far, and no one's expecting you to understand to the level that we go through. We get a little bit of understanding on how it feels to be that race, how it feels to be that person, what their mentality is. You'll see a lot of differences, but you'll see a lot of similarities. And that's all that we're really wanting on a large scale. Understand where we're coming from. Place yourself, if you're a policeman and you have not necessarily just don't like black people, but like, hey, we just treat them how we want to, it doesn't matter. Understand how that affects a family, understand how that affects a community, understand how that affects people, and understand that that person needs to be treated the same way you would treat your own brother or sister or cousin or mom or dad or aunt or uncle, sister or brother. That's it. That's all. A criminal's a criminal. But in the country that we live in, again, remember, until you're proven guilty, you're innocent. It's not guilty until proven innocent. It's innocent until proven guilty. So you're even pulling over someone or you're going to get someone that has been accused of a crime. Until that person has actually went through the proper legal procedures, was treated fairly, and found guilty, then they're not guilty. So let's not treat people like they are. And that goes even beyond, just black people, just in general. There's been a lot of athletes, and because we're referring this back to the athletic conversation, because we are a sports show, there's been a lot of athletes that, were convicted of something, or someone says that they did something, then we later found out that they didn't. So let's not jump on, I can't believe this person's done this until it's proven. Let's just hold off these judgments until it's proven, and let's treat everyone like they're innocent until we know otherwise. That's what would be really beneficial to everyone, especially to black people.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So, if anybody that's tuning in right now, if y'all have any additional comments or anything you want to talk about on that, feel free to drop them, and we'll try to address them before the end of the show. But I know we do have a lot of other topics we want to get to tonight as well. So we'll go ahead and move on to some other conversations.
Oh, yeah. Always a lot to talk about. So, funny comment here, or funny story here. So New York Knicks, their general manager said some things that he didn't know other people were around and could hear about some of the things that the commissioner of baseball was doing, how he thought they were very idiotic and they didn't make sense. Like one of the things we wanted the Mets and another team to go out and then come back in for an hour and then go play the game. And he was just saying how he thinks those things are idiotic. I'm not going to get too much into it because you can always, look into it if it's something that you want to get more information on. But essentially, he thought it was coming from someone above him, and that it wouldn't get any further. But essentially, it ended up getting to the owner of the team and his son. And it was actually something the owner of the team and his son had proposed to the commissioner. So they kind of went at him, made some posts about him, and spelled his name wrong. So we all, I think, pretty much know the Mets have been a mess for a while. Yeah. And this just adds to that. And I hate for the conversation when we have a chance to talk about the Mets to be something like this, but certain things just, I think, at least need to be mentioned. And come on, guys, like, this is a guy that you hired to work for you. You need to know how to spell his name. And then for, the general manager, you can't just openly have conversations where you're bashing the commissioner of your league where other people can hear it.
Right.
You can feel how you want about somebody, but do that behind closed doors in a situation where there aren't other people around to hear it. You clearly were a little bit too comfortable and cavalier with your conversation. Yeah. So both of you guys really just have to do better. And Major League Baseball, I'm sure, is not happy to have this as a story that's out there for people to hear.
Yeah, I mean, we just got through at the beginning of the show talk about, the Montrezl Harrell thing and how, you can't just say dumb stuff. There's things that you just have to be smart enough not to say. And talking about the commissioner of baseball, who is apparently very good friends with your boss, brings up there pretty high with stupid things you can do. So, yeah, I'm just gonna say that that was not his best decision, and he better hope they win a whole lot of games. Otherwise, someone else will probably be the general manager for the Mets very soon.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So there's not much more to say about that. Another thing I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit was we're starting to have some openings in the NBA. Some coaching vacancies are kind of coming out there. What happened with Nate McMillan? He got extended. They did the 5-0 start, and then he got fired. I'll keep my thoughts on that entire situation for another day. But that's an opening that's now available. Obviously, the 76ers finally fired Brett Brown. Probably a little bit too late, and he's probably not the biggest person to blame in this entire situation. But that's an opening that's there. We have the Brooklyn Nets. That's an opening. That's going to probably be a high-profile coach because you've got Durant, there, Kyrie's there, so it's gonna have to be a big personality to be able to handle that team. So that's probably going to be a big name hire as far as the coach for that team. You also have the Pelicans.
I was gonna say, they're trying to apparently lure Popovich from San Antonio. That's the rumor, so that'd be interesting to see if they can pull that off or not.
It would be. Then of course the Pelicans are open, being Zion's coach. That job's out there for someone, and then the Chicago job. So you got a couple jobs out there, and then of course the Houston Rockets. I feel like every year for the last couple of years, we feel like Mike D'Antoni is going to get fired. He hasn't yet, but you just kind of feel like it's coming at some point. So for me, I just look at the jobs, and I guess my initial thing is which ones do I think would be attractive, right? If I'm someone who is saying, okay, I want to be a coach. If I'm like a Tyronn Lue, for instance, do I want to go to Indiana? I would probably say no, because I'm thinking they're probably going to not keep the combination of Oladipo and Sabonis there. Both of these are guys who are hurt a lot, so they're probably not going to keep them there. Then you look at the 76ers job. That's a dysfunctional lineup. Mm-hmm. So that's when I say like it's not necessarily all the coach's fault. That's a dysfunctional lineup. You look at the Nets, like you said, heard some things about them wanting to get Popovich there. That would be an interesting job. I think you'd have to be able to deal with personalities. I think that would be a job if I'm like Tyronn Lue, Jason Kidd, Jeff Van Gundy, Mark Jackson. A lot of those guys that have been coaches before. I would definitely want to go there. New Orleans, I think, is probably to me the most appealing because you have a lot of young players, so you got a chance to develop. You're probably not going to be expected to go out there and win a championship, year one, year two. You're building, you're developing. Chicago, I think almost all the pieces are there. They just needed a fresh coach with the right persona and the right mentality to make that happen. So, but if I was picking one job and saying that one's appealing to me, I would probably pick New Orleans. What do you think?
I mean, I think it really kind of depends on the coach too, right? Because some guys are used to being in a position where maybe they're competing for a championship. They know what that's like. So I think if you're Tyronn Lue or maybe even Mike D'Antoni, if he ends up leaving Houston, or if Pop can be convinced to leave San Antonio, those are guys that I think that Brooklyn is a very attractive option for them. Because none of those guys would be afraid of the desire to have a championship get delivered. They wouldn't be afraid of stepping onto that stage. Versus, going to New Orleans, one of those guys might take that job. I think you're going to maybe get a coach that's like a level down for that job because it is a very attractive job with a very good young roster where you're going to have a little bit more time. But I think that because you do have a couple of opportunities maybe where you can win sooner, I think that those opportunities are going to probably be where the other coaches end up going to. And plus, let's not forget, if D'Antoni goes, that means Houston opens up. which then Houston becomes a really great opportunity that somebody, an experienced coach, may want to go to. So I don't necessarily see one of the top coaches going to New Orleans, but I do agree that it is a very good job, and I do feel confident they'll be able to get a solid coach there, somebody who will have some time, and it might be somebody that's coached before that has a chance. So it'll be interesting to see. One guy that I think would possibly be a good fit there would be Jason Kidd. Uh, he's a guy who tends to relate pretty well with the young guys, and he's going to probably get another head coaching job this year, but he's not going to necessarily be the guy at the top of most people's list. They're going to go after some of those other names first, so he might be that guy that just happens to fall down to that level.
I'd like to see Kenny Smith get an interview for that job. I'd like to see Kenny Smith with the head coaching job. I think he would be a great basketball mind. I think he would relate to the players. And I think that he would be able to grow in the position. And that's kind of what I'm looking at when I'm thinking about that particular job and why it would be the most appealing. It's because it would give you the opportunity to bring in a new coach, a young coach, someone who may be new to the coaching ranks or may have been an assistant but never had the head coaching job before, and give them an opportunity to grow with their team, a la Mike Malone with us. Mike Malone came in with a young roster. He wasn't expected to win right away. He got a couple of years to build up the team, get the right chemistry, the right roster together. Now they're looking good sometimes, not so good sometimes. And by the way, Denver, I do want to say I am proud of you guys for at least forcing this Game 6. So what we're going to need to do now is win 2 more games, which is going to be very difficult to do. But we put ourselves in this hole, so you're going to have to try to find a way to get up out of it.
Yep. It's funny because you talk about the New Orleans job. I haven't really looked too hard at the list of possible coaches, but there's probably at least 1 or 2 guys who are head coaches right now at the college level that may be interested in coming up that New Orleans could be an attractive spot for.
That's a possibility as well.
So Ross says he's not disagreeing because you watch way more NBA than him, but why do you say that Philadelphia is dysfunctional?
Oh, very simple. It's a very simple answer to that question, Rob. You've got 2 stars who don't seem to play well together. You overpaid Tobias Harris. You overpaid Al Horford. Those 2 pieces don't fit with Simmons and Embiid, and Simmons and Embiid may or may not fit together by themselves. You went in and decided to make Simmons a power forward in the bubble when he'd been playing point guard. So you are just a dysfunctional organization as far as getting the right things together. If you're going to have Embiid and Simmons, let's just say, all arguments aside, you're going to keep both of them. If that's the case, then where are the shooters? Where's the JJ Redick? Where's the Kyle Korvers? Those guys who are specialists at making shots. Because neither one of those guys are, well, Embiid can make the shots, but would you rather have him at his size in the post, putting in work, or shooting threes and leaving the middle with nobody getting rebounds? So you need to build a team that works well together. That's a dysfunctional mess of a lot of talent, but it doesn't play well together. We saw it this season. When you took Simmons out of the equations, they couldn't even win a game. Yeah. You shouldn't be that dependent on Ben Simmons where you can't win a game without him. That shows that your roster is not constructed to be able to compete in the NBA. And that's a bigger problem. Yeah. And that was put together by the front office, so hence dysfunction.
Yep. And then
hopefully that answers your question.
And not to mention the fact that you kind of alluded to it with Ben Simmons, but between him and Embiid, they can't stay healthy. I mean, they exactly. Hardly everything. I mean, those 2 guys, they don't even mesh well on the court together to begin with. But part of the problem with that may be that in the time they've actually been together on the roster, they haven't spent a whole lot of time on the court together.
It never helps when you don't spend a lot of time on the court together. And Malachi, we see you. I know what you're agreeing with. There you go. So, another thing I wanted to touch on, we slightly touched on earlier, but I'm considering it essentially the day that the sports world stopped.
Again.
Yeah. But this was due to something different. I'll actually let you set the table for this.
So, it's interesting because what we saw was the story broke. It said the Milwaukee Bucks are essentially going to forfeit Game 5 of their playoff series. They were willing to just say, we're not going to play. If that means forfeiting, so be it. Now, I don't know exactly what order things happened in after that. All I know is it didn't take very long for the NBA to basically just cancel all the games, with multiple teams voting to not play. Then it started to trickle outside of the NBA. And MLS canceled games, NHL canceled games, MLB canceled games. Everybody, like literally all sports, came to a stop. And I know a lot of people are on either one or two sides of this conversation, right? Either like they're, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm so proud of the players for doing this and all this other stuff. Or they're like, what's the point? Like, what do you think you're solving by not playing for a day? You're not hurting the people that, are doing these things. You're not hurting them by not being on the court. This is what I think people need to understand. Number one, this was not meant to punish the people who are doing certain things. That wasn't the point of this. The point of this was the players are realizing, you know what? At the end of the day, we have the power. And we can make a difference by stepping up and letting our voices be heard. And we can force these owners into taking actions. And that's what we're starting to now see on the backside of all this, is we're seeing the NBA is being, kind of forced into doing even more stuff. There's a whole list of things. You might have the list in front of you if you want to run through it. But, there's a whole list of things the NBA has now agreed to start doing. Three initiatives I remember seeing in particular. You're starting to see some NFL players are now talking about maybe sitting out a game if that's what's needed. And think about, the NFL is only 16 games. So you have all your people decide to sit out for a week. That's a huge deal. It's not, in the NBA it's a little bit less of a deal. The NFL is a huge deal. So, what we're seeing is, and we talked about this before, for the first time we're really starting to see the opportunity for real change to happen in this country. And these players were smart enough to say, hey, you know what? We saw this coming. We're seeing the momentum slip a little bit on this movement. And they found a way to effectively put a foot back on the gas pedal and reignite the conversation. And, I'll go ahead and steal this line from you before you even get a chance to say it. Because you told me the other day on the phone. The best part about this is they took away all sports for a couple of days, and it forced everybody to have these conversations again.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because you're going to talk about the fact that sports are gone. So if you're going to talk about the fact that sports are gone, you have to also talk about why. And see, this is the big point that a lot of people are missing that are against the movement. They are boycotting the NBA right now because of them kind of doing the Black Lives Matter stuff. What you're missing is essentially, this is not an NBA thing. This is a MLB thing. There's Black people in the NHL. There's Black people that in the MLS. There's Black people in the WNBA. So it's not just one sport. And to quickly bounce back to Brian Urlacher, you've played for years with a lot of distinguished people of color. You've played against a lot of distinguished people of color. there has to have been some conversations that were had. So I kind of take it back to what I said in the beginning about Drew Brees. You have to, on some level, know better, but you still feel comfortable doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more of a disappointment. It's not like, oh, I can't believe Brian Urlacher would say that and he's a bad person. You know, you believe what you believe. But the issue is those beliefs, when they're hurting other people, you should yourself say, you know what, maybe I need to reinstate those beliefs. So back to the NBA and the other sports that stopped. So for me, what I've learned from listening, researching what's been going on the last few days. First off, I want to give a shout out to Jaylen Brown. He's one of the people that basically stood up in a meeting and said, "Hey, look, if y'all want to cancel the season, then this means y'all are going to go be activists like I was before we got in this bubble, and we're going to go out in the streets and we're going to hit the streets with the people and protest. Because if you're going to leave here and go home and chill with your family and talk about it but do nothing, you might as well stay here." So big ups to him because he's one of the younger guys. You know, he's been in the league a couple of years, but he's one of the younger statesmen. He's not like, Chris Paul or Brian James, one of those guys. But so respect to him for standing up and saying that. And then a person that's been much maligned by Black people for them not feeling like he hasn't done his part is Michael Jordan. So Michael Jordan went to Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, and some other Jordan brand people. Got some things that they were looking for and took that back to the other owners. So what's great in the NBA is that we have one majority Black owners, Michael Jordan. He has a rapport with players because a lot of these guys, myself and down and up a little bit, grew up with Michael Jordan as the guy. So, people want to argue if he's the best ever or not. To me, he's the best ever. So I'll say one of the best ever for everybody. So one of the best ever players is also now an owner, is a Black person, and has the ear of owners to an extent where he can say, hey, guys, this is what they need. Let's, for once, everybody listen to what they're wanting. Let's not assume anything. Let's listen to what they're wanting and see if these are things that we can do. Again, what the players really want is for the owners to use their contacts and those things to help them with what they want, which is to get real change to happen.
Yep.
So that's the basis of why sports stopped. And that trickled over. You had players in the NHL, you had players in MLB doing interviews, crying, saying how they just can't believe this is still happening. It's frustrating, and they're even scared. There was a story that I read where NBA players are starting to look at buying Teslas because a lot of Black people don't buy Teslas, so they feel more comfortable riding around a Tesla. That's to the point where people with money are concerned. A lot of people say, oh, it's not a Black thing, it's a white thing, it's a money thing. No, it doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank. When you get pulled over or you get that wrong policeman behind you, he's not stopping to see how much money you got before he's coming to your car with whatever intentions he has, whether it's because of fear, whether it's because of ignorance, whatever the reason. He's not stopping at that. He's not caring about that at that moment, and that's good or bad.
Yep.
If it's a good cop and he's pulling you over for whatever reason, he's not checking to see who you are. If it's a bad cop or a cop that's going to escalate the situation in the wrong way, or cops, because in most of these cases it's multiple cops.
Yep.
They're not waiting to see who you are or how much money you have. So the money doesn't make a difference. But what they are doing is using their platform to continue and not let the momentum die because the sports are banned. The concerns that Kyrie Irving had were valid. The way he went about it to me was a little bit like, why are you doing it that way? But the concerns he had were valid.
Yep.
Essentially, don't let this take over and we forget the reason we were doing this in the first place. That's what can't happen. That's what the basketball players, one of the things that they were trying to do by bringing it back to doing this. So the owners, it seems like, are listening to the players. That's what they wanted. So now the players feel more comfortable. Those that didn't want to play like LeBron, some of the Lakers, some of the Clippers, they feel more comfortable now that they feel like they're being heard. One other quick point. Milwaukee set this off, and I have to respect them for the reasons that they did it. But at the same time, them doing that, what it did was it took away what the players union wanted to do, which was like have an announcement, have united fronts of those things. So I can understand why LeBron and some other people may have gotten mad at the meeting and got up and left. So it's kind of like, I think the reasons they left were overblown at first, because at first it was being made to seem like it's because they wanted to leave, which they probably did at the time because their emotions was high. But I think it was more the reason they actually left the meet was the frustration because things didn't go the way that the initial plan was.
Yeah. Yeah, we've all been in that situation where there's a group plan, and then that one person decides to jump out there and act like everything was their idea, and we're all like, "Bruh, we were supposed to do this as a group. Now you out here taking all the credit."
Yep, exactly. Now, Rob, quickly to respond to you, they didn't want to keep paying JJ Redick. That's why they let him go. Simmons, yeah, he doesn't shoot jumpers, but that's why you put people around him, the jump shooters, and they haven't done that. Those are issues.
Yep. I mean, unless your other option is if you want to go the route that the Lakers went with LeBron, they couldn't really surround him with a bunch of shooters, so they surrounded him with guys who could play really great defense. I guess that's apparently another way you can go with it. It's a little different than what we usually get, but yeah, the surrounding with shooters kind of the usual technique you want to go with there. So,
well, LeBron's got some shooters. He's got some shooters there.
He's got a couple, but
he got some. He's got more than Philadelphia has. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, Rob, I'm not even gonna talk about your boy.
Trump is upset when anybody gets more publicity than
him. Yeah. This is only 60-minute show, so
yeah, that would take 2-3 hours for that conversation. Easy.
You know what to do come November.
That's when we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it after the election. That's what we'll talk about.
Yeah. So yeah, man. So we got about 8 minutes or so left on our time period here. What else we got?
So I even hate to have to talk about this again, but more allegations against the Washington football team. And these implicate the owner directly. No plausible deniability. These I mean, it goes from trying to get cheerleaders to basically participate in prostitution to an extent, to comments made, videos of getting cheerleaders to do stuff topless and then taking secret videos, propositioning females that work, for the Redskins, cheerleaders and otherwise. It's just, dude. I mean, to me, there's a certain point where you just have to say, this guy's not good for the league, right? You got 31 other teams. It comes to a point where this guy's just no longer good for the league being a owner. And I'm not saying that point is there because these are all allegations. So hopefully the NFL does the legwork and finds out what really happened. And if these allegations are true, if half of these allegations are true, then I think it's time to start looking at not only get a new team name, but get a new owner for the team. And in the area, never know.
Yep.
But you have to stop. Like, you can't think that you can do these things if you did. And again, you're innocent until proven guilty. But I do say in cases where things continue to come up around the same issue, where there's smoke, there's probably fire.
Yep.
But you just have to do better. You can't continually do these things and think that it's okay. There is no situation where you can think it's okay to tell a cheerleader to just go upstairs with this guy and have a good time and enjoy yourselves. I want you in my room and I want to do this to you, I want to do that to you. And, fostering a culture where guys feel they can rub on cheerleaders, where they can take secret photos and whatever else was going on. I'm not going to get into all of it, but you just have to be better as an owner and better as an organization. And it has to be more responsibility and higher expectations than were shown.
So I'm going to tell you, I have a bit of a theory right now. And my theory is And I want to be clear in saying this. I'm not suggesting by any means that any of these allegations are untrue.
Right.
But what I think is when the pressure came down to get the name change done, that was the beginning of the end. Because the NFL has wanted to probably get rid of Dan Snyder for a while. They may have even been sitting on a lot of this stuff for a while. I'm not necessarily convinced they just found out about this stuff.
Right.
Because the fact that it came out literally days after it was announced that they were going to change the name, a little too coincidental for me. Little too coincidental. So I think what they really wanted was they wanted to get a situation where he would be the one to change the name, so that way they didn't have to bring in a new owner, change the name, cause a revolt on the fans. But if you have Dan Snyder be the one to get forced into the name change, now you can go ahead and put all the stuff out, get rid of him, and the name change is already in, so you're not going to hold the name change against the new ownership. So I feel like all this information probably is not new. I feel like they probably have all the evidence that they already need. They've already done all the investigating and research and everything on it. And now they're just leaking things out to discredit him publicly. And it's only a matter of time for they get rid of him.
I mean, the way this information stuff keeps coming out, because this was, of course, leaked to paper in the area. But like you said, these are probably not new allegations. I mean, I can't disagree with what you're saying. How can you not have somebody that's went to the league and, complained about these things?
Yeah, because these are things that are like
started coming out a few weeks ago.
Yeah, these are things like these most recent allegations from like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Nobody just came out and talked about that.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
But
so
hey,
yeah, I mean, I'm just amazed. Like when you think about a regular job, right? You think about being a manager of the company or a CFO or CEO, whatever.
Yeah.
Even for the Redskins, they had to fire some of those people for the allegations previously.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, even if you weren't directly involved, which we now know, according to these allegations, he was directly involved. But even if not, it's like loss of institutional control at college.
Yep.
Like you're the head person. So the owner is like, the chancellor of the university. If all this crazy stuff is happening at your school, then at some point it's your fault because things are happening and you're not doing anything to change it.
Right.
And that's kind of like the saddest part of all this to me, just as a person. It's like, bro, how can you continue to let these things happen? And the thing I never get with this is you have a mom. You probably have sisters or cousins, female cousins, maybe aunts. You have female family members. How would you feel if this was happening to them on their job, right? How would you feel? Like when people do these things, it's like, why do you not understand this is somebody's mom, aunt, sister, cousin, whatever.
Yeah.
You can't just treat them like objects consistently throughout your tenure as owner, and you have all these negative things come out bit by bit that paint a picture of you as just a misogynist pig,
right?
And think you're going to be able to continue, to own an NFL team,
right? Well, man, I hate to shift gears, but we do only have a couple minutes left. Guys, just want to let y'all know we did intend to talk a lot more about the NBA playoffs, what was actually going on with the games, as well as some fantasy football talk and some other things. But as we always tend to do on this show, we talk about the big stories, And right now, these were the pressing issues. These were the big things going on this week that we really wanted to discuss, and we still didn't get to everything we wanted to discuss.
No.
But I just want to let y'all know we will be talking about the NBA playoffs next week. The majority of the show will probably actually be about the NBA playoffs next week. especially because by that time we should be into the second round of the playoffs, hopefully. And we'll talk some fantasy football. So if you got some fantasy football questions, I know a lot of people got drafts coming up this week. Sorry we couldn't get you guys your draft cheat sheets, but we'll help you out this week with your week one lineups. So make sure you tune in next week with your fantasy football questions. Told y'all last week, man, we got about like 20 championships between the two of us, so we know our stuff.
It's a little crazy.
Yeah. So one thing I did want to throw out real quick before we sign off, though, in regards to the NBA, is this topic about Michael Jordan, and him basically going to the other owners and saying, "Look, I've been talking to some of the players. Now is not the time for us to go off and do what we want to do and try to, do the things we think should be done. Now's the time for us to actually listen to the players." And Mike, having been a former player, he understands that. But I think this is also a great example of, it doesn't necessarily have to be an ownership, but this is a great example of why we need more African Americans and people of different ethnicities in executive positions, to be able to have somebody to step up and go, "Hey, that stuff you guys think is what people want, that's not what anybody wants. Nobody's asking for that. Why don't we actually go talk to the players?" So that's why you need ex-players. That's why you need people who look like the players in these positions so that they can do those things. So kudos to MJ for stepping up to the plate.
Oh yeah, loving Mike for that. I just want to say, I talked about this a few weeks ago. I just want to say it again quick. Shout out to the WNBA. Y'all missing out, man. Like, we talk about the NBA a lot, even on the show, because there's so much going on with them.
Yeah.
But God, I'm telling you, those ladies ball. And I'm going to be real with you. The main difference is they play the ball like we can play, right? I'm not dunking over people. I know a lot of my friends, we're not dunking over. Some of them can, but we're not dunking. We're playing good team fundamental basketball, passing. We have a good time when we playing. We've seen other people. That's the WNBA game.
Yep.
I'm telling you, Phoenix Mercury, Atlanta Dream, Indiana Fever. There's a lot of good teams. The LA Sparks, of course. I'm telling you, catch some of those WNBA games. Trust me, you will love them.
Yep.
Also, soccer, Premier League, Major League Soccer, all that. I'm telling you, just check some of this stuff out. You will enjoy it. I know it's not basketball, it's not football. Even we don't get a chance to talk about as much as we want to. There's a lot of other good sports out there, or sports leagues, that are making things happen and giving you some good entertainment. And this is the chance for you to be able to see them and get involved in them.
Yep.
I'm telling you, trust it, you'll like it.
Absolutely, man. Get out there, man. Show some love to these ladies. Get out there and show some love to some other sports that maybe don't get the same attention that the NBA and the NFL, and to an extent even MLB does. Even hockey, man. I'm not gonna sit here and try to tell y'all I'm some huge hockey fan, but hockey is a sport that a lot of people don't really get to see or don't pay attention to. So expand your horizons a little bit, man. Give it a chance. Worst case scenario, you watch a game or two and you're like, "This is horrible. I'm never watching this again." but you might watch it and be like, "Hey, man, this is actually entertaining." So you just never know.
Give it a shot. I'm telling you.
So before we sign off, just want to remind y'all one more time. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button down in the bottom right hand corner down there. If you want to be able to listen to us on the go throughout the week, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. The links are in the description of the post. And as always, man, make sure y'all join us every Friday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's what we do.
And share with your friends. Tell them to hop on, check us out. Some will like it, some won't. But hey, just tell them to check it out.
Yeah, man. Because we and you guys know we talk about a lot of different things on here, a lot of different sports. We talk a little bit about world events, as long as they relate back to sports. So if you know somebody that's what they're looking for, send them our way. Worst case scenario, just like I said about some of those other sports, Worst case scenario is they don't like us, they never watch again. We'll be okay with that. As long as they give us a chance.
I think they'll like us.
Yeah, they'll like us.
Likeable guys.
I was trying to be humble, man. I was trying to be humble. I know they'll love us, man. Come on. But man, with that, it is time to once again remind everybody that even the sun goes down.
And heroes eventually die.
And horoscopes, they often lie.
But sometimes why?
Nothing is for show.
Nothing is for certain.
Wait until they close the curtain.
It's him and I.
The play callers. Y'all better know that.
From the ATL to the QC.
Yeah. Next week, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be here live. Shout out, much love to everybody who joined in on the comments tonight. Y'all keep showing up, keep showing love.